All right, what's up, everybody? Welcome inside Executive Decisions. I'm your host, Corey Parson, the Fantasy Executive. And I want to thank each and every one of you that is subscribed to the YouTube channel so far. Still got a long way to go, so I want to get them subscriptions up. So go ahead and do the YouTube thing. Hit the subscribe button, you know what I'm saying? Hit the like button for the content that you like. Also, it's a little bell down there that you can hit that you are notified anytime the Fantasy Executive, that is I, drop some content. Coming to you on Thursday, the second day of August in 2023. Training camps all over the place in full effect. We got some NFL talk to get into. Fall football camp in college football has also started. Got a little bit of college football we want to get into as well on the program. Tell you about what's going on with the Pac-12 and how really Florida State University can really affect what happens as college football realigns, not to mention the fact, got a wild story out of the Clemson program that I want to get into as well. But today, I want to start discussing some NBA basketball, and not really so much the product that's on the court. You know, I did have my offseason top 10. You can look on the YouTube channel right now, give that a holler, give that a shout. Give that a like, leave a comment. Give me what you think on my off-season NBA power rankings. But we got plenty of time before we get back into the NBA to talk about what's going on the court. But I want to talk about something that took place off the court this week that kind of got me a little upset, a little sad, you know what I'm saying? Somebody like me who grew up in New York cities in the 80s and 90s and stuff like that, obviously, you know, always was a big Dallas Cowboy fan. But, you know, through going to St. Raymond's High School for Boys, a basketball powerhouse in New York City and nationally, obviously the sport of the NBA and basketball was a big part of my growing up. And for real, as far as I can remember following the NBA and just basketball in general, Mark Jackson has always been a guy that I've admired and looked up to. Mark Jackson from Queens, New York. He's probably in his early to mid-50s. He's older than me. I remember him being in high school or in college, you know, playing this college ball when I was in high school. I went to a CHSAA high school. That's the New York City Catholic City High School League. Mark Jackson, legend in that league. Mark Jackson goes on to be a legend at St. John's and obviously becoming a member of the New York Knicks in those glory years in the 1990s when it was blood on the court in Madison Square Garden. You know what I'm saying? So I've always been a big supporter and a big fan of Mark Jackson. You know what I'm saying? I value his basketball knowledge. I value his New York City point guard ability. And also, you know, he's a man of the cloth, a devout Christian, you know, like I try to be myself. You know what I'm saying? So I've always been a fan of Mark Jackson. More recently, he's become a phenomenal broadcaster, you know, doing the show, doing the basketball games, the finals and whatnot with the crew of Mike Breen, Jeff Van Gundy, and Mark Jackson. Well, earlier this year, about a month or so ago, when ESPN was doing their reorganization and their reshuffling, they let Jeff Van Gundy go, which, you know, obviously I'm a Van Gundy guy. I thought that was a bad move, but I can see obviously Van Gundy has been critical of the NBA at times, and obviously the NBA and ESPN are in bed together. So they let Van Gundy go. And then this week, out of nowhere, they fire Mark Jackson. And this upset me pretty much. Not only is that upset me because I'm a Mark Jackson guy, but, you know, Breen, Van Gundy, and Mark Jackson was the current standard of play-by-play in game action, not just in the NBA, but in sports, period, as far as I'm concerned. And when I say the standard, I mean like the only duo that's better, in my opinion, was Pat Summerall and John Madden. Like, I'm so much into Breen, Van Gundy, and Jackson that the only people that compete with them are, you know, the legendary duo of Pat Summerall and John Madden, NFL combination. You know, both of them passed away now, but they were the best. Since that time, Mark Jackson, Jeff Van Gundy, and Mike Green has been the best. And I understand that ESPN, like most media, the reason why I'm here talking to you now is because the media industry is upside down. It's time to do it yourself, fantasy exec. But the games still get ratings. The games still attract advertisers. Why are you breaking up the best game broadcast crew in sports? I didn't see what that was about. Like, I can understand, you got problems on ESPN. Nobody don't watch them shows outside of First Take. They'll watch Pat McAfee and they'll watch, my man Scott Van Pelt on the Late Sports Center. But other than that, anybody checking for those shows. So I can see Jalen Rose, Keyshawn Johnson, and the likes not being there no more. Max Kellerman, what have you. But, when you go into the game broadcast and you break up the number one NBA broadcast crew, in my opinion, number one broadcast crew in sports, period, I think that's unfortunate. I got a problem with that. Now, I'm not saying that, what's going on behind the scenes, like I know that Mark Jackson did something or they're trying to persecute Mark Jackson. But here's a guy who can't get an NBA head coaching job despite being the catalyst of the Golden State Warrior dynasty. And now you put him out of work on TV where he was fantastic. So I kind of feel bad that, what's taking place with Mark Jackson over the course of the week. I think it would be very smart for Turner to figure out a crew and put Jeff Van Gundy and Jackson back together again. Turner's basketball product is much better than ESPN's basketball product. ESPN is going to a booth. I still love Mike Green. He's still my favorite of all time. He's my favorite person in sports media is Mike Green, right? But now they're going to a booth of Green, Doris Burke, and Doc Rivers. And listen, nothing against Burke, nothing against Rivers. I'm a fan of Doris Burke, big fan of Doris Burke. Doc Rivers, whatever. He's a coach a coach with a headset. I have no problem with that. But to break up that legendary crew, I thought that was a problem. Mike Green was asked about it. He said he was sad. He was disappointed. They had done so much stuff together and had a chance to really push it because all of them are still young guys. They could have done it for another 20 years or so. So it's unfortunate to see that happen. But, hey, change does happen. And we got to figure out a way to, to catch up to speed. But I do wish Mark Action Jackson, New York City point guard, nothing but the best. And Turner, I'm telling you, go grab up Van Gundy. Even though I heard Van Gundy wants to get back into coaching. But if not, go grab up Van Gundy. Go scoop up Jackson. Put him with Kevin Harlan. Or you can even put those two with a brand new play-by-play guy. And put them on your NBA broadcast. I would hate to go through a basketball season without Jeff Van Gundy and Mark Jackson. One more media thing before we get into another topic around the NBA. I'm pretty sure in the next couple of weeks or so, we will hear from the people over at Fox, and they'll figure out what they're going to do with Undisputed and who they're going to team up with Skip Bayless now that, Shannon Sharpe is out the door. More than likely, Shannon Sharpe's going to end up on First Take or a part of the First Take team. I'm rooting for LaShawn McCoy to get the most of that work. See, I think Skip goes to a Skip and Friends where you'll see guys like Keyshawn Johnson. They mentioned Lil Wayne. But I hope that LaShawn McCoy plays a big role in that because I'm a LaShawn McCoy fan. You know what I'm saying? I think he's smart. I think he brings good energy. He's a natural on TV, and he talks like me, and he's kind of candid and forthright. So I hope Shady McCoy gets a chance to have a bigger role over there at FS1. Now, I'll get off my media soapbox. You know what I'm saying? Make sure you hit the subscribe. Make sure you hit the like. This program right here, Executive Decisions, is the flagship show of the Executive Network right here on YouTube. We come to you on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Fridays for the most part, at least 3 times a week. We got some other shows mixed in, fantasy football shows and stuff like that. So plenty of stuff for everybody over here. You know what I'm saying? Another topic around the NBA off court doesn't really concern what's going on with the NBA. But the homie, Ice Cube, NWA Ice Cube, has been on this Fuck the Gatekeepers podcast tour. You saw him say on Twitter that he was going on a F the Gatekeepers tour. He started off on Joe Rogan. I know he did Pierce Morgan. He did the Pivot. He rode around with Tucker Carlson and had Tucker in the studio. I believe I saw him on the Breakfast Club as well, right? And basically, Ice Cube has a lot to talk about. If you haven't seen any interviews, you want to go check him out. But his beef with the NBA, I find it interesting. You know, Ice Cube has the Big Three League, which is 3-on-3 half-court basketball. You got some younger players, but mainly the league is comprised of dudes who are NBA veterans who don't play no more. Kind of the theory is that they're playing once a week. They can give it all they got. These guys can still hoop. You know what I'm saying? He moves his shows around, his basketball games around from arena to arena, different cities. This year, they're also celebrating 50 years of hip-hop. So Ice Cube's been doing this for a few years now, entertaining summertime basketball. Now, the Ice Cube's beef is that the NBA is getting in his way to stop Ice Cube and to slow him down. Basically by saying that the Big Three is a rival league to the NBA. Now, let's be fucking serious. The Big Three is not a rival league to the NBA. But the NBA does have summertime basketball properties, like the Summer League, the WNBA. Now, the Pro-Am circuit is not NBA related, but you'll see Pro-Am games on NBA TV, whether it be the Drew League, whether it be the Able League down there in Atlanta. I know at time to time you'll see Rucker Park on there, even though Rucker Park is not the place it used to be. It's really a tourist attraction now. You want good street basketball in New York, you hit up the Dykeman, you know what I'm saying? And then you got the tournament. The tournament's not an NBA property also, but the tournament shares a broadcast partner in ESPN. Now, Cube is saying that, you know, the NBA has these things where they could say, okay, well, the Big Three is, you know, a rival league. But I don't look at the Big Three as a rival league. It could rival some of your properties. I get that. But the Big Three has their television deal with CBS. The tournament has ESPN. So my guess is the NBA is kind of telling these corporate sponsors and potential broadcast partners not to get in bed with the Big Three because you jeopardize your relationship with the NBA. And obviously the companies don't want to jeopardize relationship with the big bad NBA. So that's kind of where the problem starts. And listen, for the most part, on the surface, well, the NBA runs their business. Ice Cube runs his business. The NBA says it's a rival. Then Ice Cube needs to go build his business up. But then you think back to the summer of 2020. And let me tell you something. In the summer of 2020, I knew all of y'all was frauds, particularly people associated with the corporate media, with Black Lives Matter on the court like the NBA did, and Black Lives Matter slogans, and the players changing their jerseys to social media, you know, the social justice campaigns. Well, what Ice Cube is saying was all of that you did for show is one thing, but when you got a chance to coexist and actually do business with a Black-owned business, you instead say it's your rivals and you get out the way. Ice Cube has expressed that several NBA owners would like to invest in the Big Three. Ice Cube even said, listen, why can't every NBA franchise have a Big Three franchise? Fantastic idea. I'm sure some of the NBA owners like it. But not Adam Silver. See, Adam Silver, on the other hand, is telling the owners, nah, this is a rival league. We're not getting in bed with Ice Cube. And he's standing 10 toes down on that. So that's why Ice Cube was on this F the Gatekeepers tour. I think Ice Cube has a beef here. Because if the owners, private businessmen, are trying to get involved with the league, why not let them? What's your beef with Ice Cube? You know, he's a black man. You know what I'm saying? Everybody knows Ice Cube. You know him from his movies. You know his history. You know what he can do. He has the business acumen, but you don't really want to do business with black businesses. See, it's easy to put slogans on the court. It's easy to have players walk around with justice on the back of their jerseys. But when it's time to really get something done, the NBA showed their true colors, and I'm appreciative of my man Ice Cube for checking that out. Now, like I said, you want some on-the-court NBA stuff? Go on the Executive Network, look through the videos, and you'll find my off-season power rankings. Make sure you give that a like button, and make sure you subscribe to the program as well. Just so much going on in the offseason of basketball, you know what I'm saying? But I really feel as if Ice Cube is right like on this time, because I've been through the same thing. Everybody is so, Black Lives Matter this and Black Lives that, and we're going to do the right thing. I knew all that stuff in 2020. The summer of 2020 wasn't going to make it to the winter of 2021. I was right on that. That energy disappeared quickly, and I'm glad that Ice Cube called that out. And shame on the NBA and Adam Silver, who I've always been a fan of. I've been known to that Adam Silver was the sharpest guy in sports. Some of the things he's done recently, I'm starting to look at Silver a little bit differently, and I'm going to be keeping my fantasy executive eye on you, Adam Silver. Not that it'll make a difference. All right, let's turn the page and get into a little bit of NFL, talk some football action. All 32 teams in camp right now, but I'm going to focus on the team that, is the NFL, really, the Dallas Cowboys. Cowboys down there, and they're in Oxnard. They're not in Texas. They're in Oxnard, California. Spot they go to training camp every couple years. The Cowboys have a real big fan base in California. You know what I'm saying? So they like to go out there every now and then and have training camp out there in Cali. They're out there this year. Mike McCarthy's team, Jerry came to the podium like he always do to start off camp. But what I found interesting is Jerry didn't give a 20-minute talk. Jerry just sat down, opened it up to questions. And, Jerry is always going to be optimistic about the upcoming season. And I think after back-to-back 12-win seasons, there is a reason to be optimistic in Dallas. You know what I'm saying? You got a solid defense, could be the best in the NFL. Obviously, the Cowboys are going to be good in the trenches. That's one of their calling cards. You cut a little weight with Ezekiel Elliott. I think we knew that time was coming to an end. You know what I mean? It was a little emotional, but Zeke doesn't deserve to be a starting running back no more. Tony Pollard coming back healthy. CeeDee Lamb, Trayvon Diggs under contract. Micah Parsons only getting better. Another strong draft. Bringing in Mozzie Smith to help clean up some of that trash in front of Parsons and make him a more effective player. The quarterback, full disclosure, is still an issue for me. I mean, everyone knows how I feel about Dak Prescott. He's a fraud masquerading around as a franchise quarterback. What was it? 25 interceptions and 28 starts, his last 28 starts? That's not acceptable. Coming to the podium and saying, some of them were tip passes, that's not acceptable for a dude that makes $40 million a year. But I'm not going to spend this time beating up on Dak Prescott. I want to go to the defensive side of the ball and defensive coordinator Dan Quinn. And, this is one of the reasons why I'm more optimistic about the Dallas Cowboys than I've been in the past 4 or 5 years. Back in 2014, when the New England Patriots began training camp, Bill Belichick told his team the most important thing they had to deal with this upcoming season was their ability to play defense in the red zone. Belichick told the team, if we became a strong defensive team, particularly in the red zone, I think we can go pretty far. Well, that year ended up with a red zone interception to seal a championship. Everybody remembers that one. But in the divisional round, the Baltimore Ravens were driving with a chance to beat the New England Patriots. Red zone interception. When Dan Quinn came to the podium to start training camp, they asked him what his focus was and how he felt about the defense. And he said, I think we can be real good, particularly if we improve our red zone defense. See, now when I hear coaches talking about things like red zone defense, you see, that's situational football. When they get in the red zone, you hold on to 3. When you get in the red zone, you score a touchdown. That's how you win championships. That's the kind of thinking that makes me optimistic about the Dallas Cowboys. So I feel good about what's going on in Cowboy camp. Now, I hope Zach Martin gets in, right? And I understand Zach Martin wants a new deal. Let me tell you something. Jerry Jones, is, in my opinion, is one of the fairest owners in the NFL. Zach Martin's been one of the highest paid offensive linemen basically his entire career. So I do expect something to happen and for Martin to get in camp. I could also see Martin being like, you know what? I don't feel like going to camp. Let me work out on my own instead of that California sun, and I'll see you in Big D when it's time to get rolling. So I expect Zach Martin in a couple of weeks to join the team when they get back to Texas and, you know what I'm saying, go ahead and get it done. It was funny how Dak Prescott said, pay the man. And Jerry said, well, we gave the quarterback all the money. The quarterback got to earn the money now. But I'm not going to get off on a tangent on Dak Prescott. I'm going to remain patient, and I'm going to give him an opportunity to throw interceptions. I'm not going to start, eviscerating him before he throws said interception. So there you go right there. That's a couple of things that I wanted to get out the way good and early. You know what I'm saying? So now this morning, as I was preparing for the program, I did get some BetMGM sends out an email on a daily basis of some different numbers, some behind the scenes look at, how people are betting at the sports book. You can take this information and, kind of get you an advantage in your wagering. Because, we do a lot of wagering over here. It's going to be wagering and betting advice on this network all through the season, all through the NBA season. We're going to be getting money. So I wanted to go through some of the BetMGM Sportsbook insights. Today, they're looking at NFL playoff odds, teams to make and miss the playoffs. Now, the teams with the most tickets to make the playoffs are the Denver Broncos at plus 200, the Pittsburgh Steelers at plus 145, and the Cleveland Browns at even money. So let me start off by saying this. The entire AFC North is not going to the playoffs. One of those teams are going to have to miss the playoffs, more than likely. Now, it could happen, but I would be shocked if that happened. Now, I'm not saying that these are bad wagers at Broncos plus 200, Steelers plus 145, and Browns at even money. But when you look at the AFC, the division with all the top quarterbacks, it's going to be tough to fight your way into that playoff mix. So if I'm making to make the playoff wager, I'm not going to go and bet plus money on an AFC team to make the playoffs because it's only 7 slots. It's about 11 teams in the AFC that can make the playoffs. So I would fade the AFC teams to make the playoff market. I would fade the AFC teams to make the playoff markets. The Broncos, I'm still not in love with Russell Wilson. The Steelers and the Browns both play in that tough division. Now, let's look at the most bet money. Not the most bet tickets, but the actual dollars and cents where the people are placing their money. So this is kind of what we can say where the sharp money is at to make the playoff market. The Seahawks at minus 120. That is fabulous. I love that. I would go ahead and I would double down on that Seahawks minus 120 to make the playoffs. I love the Seahawks this year. Once again, notice the sharp on the NFC team at minus 120. Then you have the New England Patriots at plus 240. Hall of Fame head coach. You get a real offensive coordinator for Mac Jones, an AFC team, so I wouldn't bet it, but I can see it. And here's what I love. The most bet money to make the playoffs is the Washington Commanders at plus 375. The NFC is much weaker than the AFC. And I think the Commanders can actually make the playoffs this year. And at these juicy odds, I would go ahead and get behind this. I think Sam Howell gives them some stability. It's going to be some growing pains, but let me tell you something. Washington is good in the trenches. They got good young receivers, and they got a strong running game. Now, Chase Young is probably an overshoot and miss. But I think guys like Deron Payne, I think the rookie Emmanuel Forbes, I'm looking forward to see what this Commander team can do. Now, can they jump to the top of the NFC East and overtake the Dallas Cowboys and the Philadelphia Eagles? I wouldn't go that far. But I can damn sure see them getting the playoff spot over the Giants. As a matter of fact, if Kayvon Thibodeau didn't have the game of his career last year when the Giants went to Washington, DC could have made the playoffs last year. So I'm with the Sharps on this one at plus 375. I like that. Now let's go to the most bet tickets to miss the playoffs. Now this is not the money count. This is the ticket count. So this is the square money. The Jets at plus 115. I can buy that. I think the Jets are a playoff team though. The Lions at plus 145. I love this right here because everybody is singing the Lions praises. Everybody's talking about how the Lions are the it team. I always like to fade the it team. Last year, the it team was the Broncos. They were a dud. 2 years ago, the it team was the Browns. They were a dud. This year, the it team is the Detroit Lions. That's an easy fade for me right there. I do like their offense for fantasy purposes, though. And the other team with the tickets is the Bengals at plus 280. Obviously, the injury to Joe Burrow plays a little bit of a role in that. Most of these bets were probably taken before the injury. But if I was going to fade an AFC team, it would be the Buffalo Bills at plus 195 to miss the playoffs. I think the Bengals are legit. They could get off to a slow start this year with Burrow's injury, but I can still see the Bengals finishing strong and possibly being in their third straight AFC championship game. Now, here is the sharp money to miss the playoffs. It doesn't look so sharp. The Steelers at minus 175. There's no chance in hell that I'm laying $1.75 on the Steelers to miss the playoffs when they got a Hall of Fame head coach on their sideline and almost made the playoffs last year without even trying. There's no way I'm going to do that to the Pittsburgh Steelers at that price. The Jets at plus 115. I mean, they're the Jets. You know what I'm saying? Listen, it makes perfect sense. The AFC is loaded, and they're the Jets, even though I do think the Jets are a good team this year. And then you got the Packers at minus 200. If you're going to lay $2 for the Packers to miss the playoffs in the NFC, but you like the Lions. Make that make sense. You like the Lions, but going to fade the Packers. That division is not good. I think Jordan Love and that Packer team is a sleeping giant who can win that division. So I wanted to get that little bit of NFL information out there, you know what I'm saying, as far as how I feel about some of those bets right now. But really, I do like the Commanders to go ahead and make a playoff run this season. Ron Rivera, he has to make the playoffs in order to keep his job. So I think this is a make-or-break season for Rivera. I think how the addition to Eric Bieniemy as the offensive coordinator, I'm excited if I'm a Commander fan. But I'm not a Commander fan. I'm a Dallas Cowboy fan. I root for America's team. But I did see something very interesting floating around the internet the other day, and I want to hop on it. There is a petition going around right now on the Washington Commanders to change their name back to the Washington Redskins. At first, they were looking to get 15,000 signatures. This thing, as of the last time I checked it, has over 50,000 signatures. You know, sometimes I think we can take woke too far. The fans want the name. The fans want to sing Hail to the Redskins. The fans want to sing HTTR. Most of the fans don't even respect the Commander name or respect the Commanders as an organization. They're still rocking with the team based on the fact that that's the team they grew up loving. So, yeah, it may not be the politically correct thing to do, but if this new group came in here and changed that name back to the Redskins, as long as Dan Snyder is not attached, the fan base will be fine with it. Now, the woke corporate media will have a problem with it, but the fans of that team will still pack that stadium. I guarantee you that. To see this thing already with over 50,000 signatures, they said they would consider changing the name to Harris Group. Now, they asked Magic, and Magic, is just really, I don't want to say Magic is just a figure because he's a figure with some cash. You know what I'm saying? He was out there partying, dancing the go-go and stuff like that. Shout out to Magic Johnson. But interesting to see how this plays out. The fans with this petition that's making the rounds, the fans are clearly telling you they want to return to what they were. Not only, of course, they want to return to what they were on the field 40 years ago, but they want their name back. Interesting to see how that one shakes out right there. So keep abreast of that situation. You can go on ahead right now. If you haven't hit that subscribe button yet, hit that. You can hit that bell to get notified. This is Fantasy Executive Corey Parson, the Executive Network right here on YouTube. Like I said, we want to get these numbers up and get the rolling so we can go into the season and have a good time and, do a whole bunch of good stuff sitting up here talking with y'all. So there you go right there. I want to close today talking a little bit of college football before I get out of your way and get ready to get on with the rest of my day. Let's start in the Pac-12, where UCLA and USC have already departed for the Big Ten. They'll join Ohio State and Michigan and those guys next year. Colorado, which, listen, to be honest, their football program wasn't worth much. But guess what? Deion Sanders, Coach Prime is there now. Colorado heads to the Big 12. So now you got teams like Utah, Washington, and Oregon trying to figure out, is the Pac-12 going to be able to hang on and remain a power conference? Or are they going to leave the Pac-12 as well, and you really see the Pac-12 unravel and become the Mountain West for all intents and purposes? Now, let's start with Arizona. If I'm Arizona, I'm out. I skate to the Big 12. I can go play basketball with Kansas. You know what I'm saying? I get in the Kansas Conference. Houston's there as well. So now I still am a power team when it comes to college basketball. So if I'm Arizona, I'm out, no questions asked. Utah, Washington, and Oregon, they can kind of position themselves to be the future of the Pac-12. They keep it from being a regional conference. You know what I'm saying? But the problem is the TV deal. The Pac-12 conference is looking to do a deal with Apple TV and Apple TV Plus. Basically, in order to watch Pac-12 football, you would have to have a Apple TV Plus subscription. And from that, the conference will pay out the schools. Well, if nobody don't subscribe to watch the schools play, then what are we doing? I think the Pac-12's in trouble. I could see the Utahs and the Washington staying. I already told you I think Arizona is out, and I think Oregon is going too. Oregon, that powerhouse with Nike. I could see them making a move to the Big Ten, or to the Big 12 themselves, because Oregon is a brand. It's associated with Nike, and I don't think they want to be involved with this Apple TV Plus with the Pac-12. The Pac-12 is basically getting the treatment that the Big East got about a decade or so ago. Now, as college football reorganizes and we get ready to go into an expanded playoff, the NIL era, the transfer portal era, I think the team that really is the piece that can unravel the way we look at college sports, not just college football, at college sports right now, is the Florida State Seminoles. Now, there are rumors that that Florida State could possibly be looking to leave the ACC to join either the SEC or the Big Ten. Now, if that happens, you bet your bottom dollar Clemson and Miami going to pack their bags and find them a new conference as well. Now, as I'm having this conversation, alert comes through from Sports Illustrated, one of the companies I used to work for. They wasn't smart enough to keep me there. The Big Ten presidents has discussed potentially raiding the Pac-12 2 to 4 members as conference expansion accelerates. So there you go right there. The Big Ten is already looking to strike to dismantle that conference. Let's get back to Florida State, though, Because if Florida State leaves, like I said, Clemson and Miami is going to pack their bags and go too. Florida State's beef is the amount of money they bring to the conference is not amount of money that they bring back from the conference. So they're saying, listen, give us a bigger piece of the pie and we stay. If not, we're going to consider leaving. Now, if I'm the ACC, you may have to kowtow and buckle to Florida State. But the Clemsons and the Miamis are going to say, listen, we bring in money to this conference as well. This is the way I would say to fix it. Let's just say Florida State does decide to leave. And that triggers Clemson and Miami leaving as well. If I'm the ACC, right, I go and I scoop up Memphis, and then I combine with the Big East and I make a power basketball conference. You still got Vatech, North Carolina State for football. Memphis plays football as well. Now you got UConn for basketball to go along with Syracuse, Pittsburgh, and everybody else. So I would look to combine those conferences and make a power conference. Now, I don't run the NCAA. I don't run a conference. I just run this network right here. But I think that's pretty smart. Speaking of Florida State, I like Florida State to win the ACC this year. I saw this at plus 185. That number is probably going to drop as we get closer to the kickoff of college football season. They open up with that big game versus LSU. Other key matchups on Florida State's schedule this year is Miami, Clemson, and they close with Florida. So their schedule is bookend with 2 SEC teams. They got to win one of those games, right? Particularly the Florida one. And I think they got to win. They got to beat Clemson this year as well. If they can do that and get some help, they can sneak into the college football playoff. But if I'm Florida State, my goal is to win the Atlantic Coast Conference this year. You got Jordan Travis, you know what I'm saying, who is a Heisman Trophy candidate. You know Florida State's going to be good on defense. You know they're going to have good skill position players. Mike Norvell is getting into his own as the head coach of that program. He was on some rocky, slopes a little bit. But for the most part, that program is right at the ship. They were played well last year. A lot of people have expectations for them to possibly be ACC champions this year. I think Clemson is strong, but I think Florida State is better at quarterback. So I'm going to say that Florida State wins the ACC this year, and you can go ahead and make that wager. That's an executive decision right there. Go ahead and write that one down. Now, before we get out of here, I got a story I want to leave you with. It is about the University of Clemson football team. This is a rather disturbing story. Full disclosure. T.J. Dudley, a 4-star linebacker from the University of Clemson, has been thrown off the team, and rightfully so, for using unauthorized photos of his teammates to put on an OnlyFans page. Now, if you're not familiar with OnlyFans, neither am I. I had to look it up. But apparently, if you're into like fetishes, like a foot fetish or a big booty fetish like Zion Williamson, or whatever kind of fetish you may have, you can pay a subscription, find that content provider, and masturbate for the most part. You know what I'm saying? But what Dudley was doing, son, whoa, pause, calm down. My man, hey, yo, what is going on? You in the locker room taking meat pictures and then putting them on the website and charging people money? Son, you don't have no NIL money? You're a 4-star recruit. What the hell is going on? This right here is the type of stuff that gets your ass beat, Mr. T.J. Dudley. The nerve of this guy taking meat pictures, booty pictures of adult males and putting it on OnlyFans, and you pocketing the money? Son, what the hell is wrong with you? There's a lot of things going on at Clemson. They need to get back to the college football playoffs. I know Dabo wants to get that program turned around. You got South Carolina beating down your door in state. You know what I'm saying? You got Florida State right on your heels in conference. Man, Clemson, time's getting hard, bro. Listen up. Hey, T.J. Dudley, my man. If we had an executive decisions donkey of the day, you would definitely get the award. But to other young people out there getting ready to start their college football careers, don't go in the locker room and take pictures of your teammates' meat and put it on damn OnlyFans. I shouldn't have to say this, but apparently so. Anyway, I want to thank everybody for rocking with us today on this good old Wednesday. We'll be back on Friday for another edition of Executive Decisions. In the meantime, check out all the content right here on the Executive Network. But the biggest thing that you can do is hit that subscribe button and hit that bell so you're notified anytime the Fantasy Exec holler at you. All right, everybody, have a good day. Try to stay as cool as possible out there. Fantasy Exec, your boy Corey Parson. We out. I rap with you.